Hey, everybody. Good Friday morning. It's time for your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. Oh, yeah. Realty expert Caitlin Ramseth is back in the studio on this fine Friday morning, and we will talk with her right after this.
Life, with its many stages. From the "my little one has just arrived" stage to the "I have arrived" stage. From the first home you'll ever buy to the one home you'll have forever. No matter where you find yourself in life, your forever agent will be there. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. For you, for life. Life.
Back in the studios of Grand Forks Best Source. Hello there, Caitlin Ramseth. How are you today?
I'm good.
Do you have big plans for the weekend?
I work this weekend, and I know that there's another expo at the Alaris Center.
Oh.
I think it's the Spring Expo, and
okay.
We will be having a booth there this weekend.
Oh, okay.
I won't be here this year at it, but so, yeah, that's, if no one has anything going on, go to the Alaris Center this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was anything going on.
Yeah, I think it's like the Forks Builders Association.
Oh,
Expo.
sure. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
After doing all of these podcasts with Berkshire Hathaway, I have come to the conclusion, and I have learned one thing, that there are all kinds of different players on your team.
There is.
Not just your team at Berkshire Hathaway, but you guys work with so many different people. I mean, when it comes to lenders, when it comes to, there's a ton of them.
There is.
That you guys work with. And kind of go through some of the people that you guys work with besides just the team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah, so when we are going through the transaction, whether that's buying a house or selling a house, there's more than just working with your realtor. Usually the clients are in direct contact with their realtor, but we have a big team behind the scenes working like 24/7 for our clients, just to make sure that the transaction runs smoothly. So on the buyer side and the seller side, you typically have a realtor working with you. Sometimes people choose to do like the for sale by owner, but more than often they have a realtor working with them. On the buyer side, it's called a buyer's agent. On the seller side, it's called the listing agent.
Okay.
It's a choice to have a transaction coordinator working on your side. I choose to have one. Basically, a transaction coordinator is kind of like an assistant in a sense. They're helping with communication. They're making sure all of the legal paperwork is getting done on time. And they're watching those due dates to make sure that everything is getting done on time so that we don't have to extend out our closing date.
Okay.
Because the last thing we want is for our excited buyers or sellers to get told, sorry, we're not closing today.
Right. You get your hopes up and yeah.
Yep. And I think it's a really smart thing for realtors to have a transaction coordinator, because when you are working with so many different clients, it can be easy to miss something or get something confused, or you know what I mean. There's when you're getting busy, you are busy, and having that transaction coordinator just keeping track of everything, making sure those due dates are getting done, everything like that is key for a successful and smooth transaction. The next person on the buyer side is a lender. So if you are financing with a loan, you are going to have a lender that you are in communication with. And this is hopefully a lender that you trust and like. I know there's so many different lenders, like the big time national lenders versus local lenders. So we always tell our clients to try to contact 2 or 3, get a feel for who you like, who you're going to work best with, because sometimes, they say the typical closing timeline is 30 to 45 days, but sometimes it can be like 6 months. It just depends on how long until you find
what kind of hurdles you run into and obstacles.
Yeah, so it can be a long time to work with someone that you're not really getting along well with. So we always say, reach out to a few lenders, make sure that you're good communication, everything like that. A lot of the local lenders here are great to work with, because if for some reason, something goes wrong in the transaction, they're so quick to pick up their phones, and the communication is so good. Where a lot of times, those national lenders who might be working on the other side of the country, the time zone is different. And it can be really hard to get in contact with them if we need something ASAP. So it has happened to me where I get to closing and the closing company doesn't have the documents in yet. And we're 5 minutes past our time. You can see the buyers are getting stressed out. And our local lenders are so great to get everything there within like 10 minutes.
And it doesn't take that long of an amount of time, and pretty soon you're probably friends with that local lender.
Exactly.
Because you're working with them,
Exactly.
and then you're on a first name basis. You probably got them on your speed dial on your phone, and you can call them up.
Exactly, and they're so quick to answer their phone. So that's why we always say, try to choose a local lender if you can. But ultimately, it is the client's choice, and we want them to just be working with someone who they feel comfortable with working with. So the next person on the team is an appraiser. And this appraiser, your lender orders the appraisal, but they are very key factor in the transaction. They're going to make sure that the house that you are purchasing or selling on the seller side, it's within value so that, the buyer's not overspending way too much on a house that's not worth what it's worth. So they're a very key role into the transaction. The next one is the title company. So these ones are very important too, to make sure that we are getting everything done on time, making sure the title is free and clear, there's no liens against the property, anything like that. And this is where you sit at a table and you sign a big stack of papers if you're a buyer. So they help explain everything, make sure that the buyers are confident with everything, and they help close on the house too.
When we have mentioned this, and we talk about the people at Berkshire Hathaway, how it is a team, and we also talk about how you realty experts, you're kind of like the captain of your team, because it's, again, like we said at the beginning of the show, not just the Berkshire Hathaway people part of the team, but you've got all the different players, lenders, appraisals, inspectors, yard care people, contractors, painters, plumbers, electricians, title companies. You guys know pretty much who is who and who to get a hold of in the areas that you are working in. And again, like when you say maybe you're not quite ready yet, but when you go through all of that, and that's not even the whole list, I'm sure.
Right.
The quicker you do it, the less hurdles, the less obstacles you're going to run into.
Yep.
I did want to ask you one thing, Caitlin, kind of going off track here a little bit. When we talk about all the different players and we talk about lenders and things like that, one thing we talk a lot about are credit scores.
Yes.
For people who don't quite understand how credit scores work, is there any way you can break that down a little bit or not?
I can,
okay.
Because one of the very first steps when you are going to be buying a house is getting your pre-approval and talking with your lender. So the very first thing that I get asked a lot is, what does my credit score have to be? Your credit score is a huge role in getting pre-approved. So I'll kind of break it down. Your credit score, it can range between 300 and 850. I don't typically see anyone like way down at the 300s, and I rarely see anyone at the top of the 850. It's usually within like that maybe like low 600 to the 750 range. And the first thing that lenders are going to look at is your payment history. This is about 35% of your credit score. So your payment history is super important, making sure you're paying your bills on time, you're not missing any payments on credit cards, anything like that. The second item is your credit mix. So lenders are going to require you to have some sort of debt, whether that's like an auto loan, a credit card, maybe you already have a mortgage and you're looking to buy a second house. Whatever it is, your lender is going to want to see that you have some sort of debt so they can make sure you know how to pay your stuff off on time. The third thing is how you utilize your credit. So not maxing out on credit cards. They say you want to try to keep your limit like below 30% of where your max is on like credit cards, things like that. So they're going to be looking for that. And that's about 30% of your credit score as well. So if you have multiple lines of credit out and you have like 5 credit cards that are maxed, that's going to ding on your credit score. So just making sure that you are not using the same credit card for everything and maxing it out.
Sure.
Maybe it's time to open a new one so that you can split it up a little bit.
It's funny when you say you actually kind of need debt. I know a couple of examples. One guy, he's retired, has been a cash guy his whole life, couldn't get a cell phone plan because he has no he doesn't even have a checking. I don't even know if he has a checking account. But and another friend of mine who played professional hockey for many years, was bouncing all over the world playing hockey. When he finally retired and came time to build his dream home, he was basically took out a mortgage. It took him a little while to do it. He could have paid cash for the house. But I mean, now you're in your late 30s, and all of a sudden you really have no credit built up. You got to start somewhere. It's too late that you're starting so late. But I get that now. And in fact, I could go to my credit union and say, hey, I'd like to take out a loan. And they'll say, okay, I just need a couple of check stubs. And what are you paying on now? And boom, 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 and it's done. But there's a lot to it. I mean, you guys don't just show houses.
Right.
It's not, Caitlin's going to be at the open house today. Let's go. I mean, there's way more to it than that.
I know. I always say, like, HGTV makes it look so easy, but there's so much more behind the scenes that goes into it. So yeah, if you are someone who might not have any like credit cards, car loan, anything like that, the easiest thing would be to just go to your local bank that you use your personal bank with and just ask them to get a credit card. Your budget on your credit card, your limit doesn't even have to be that high.
Right.
Buy your groceries, buy your gas on it, start paying, and then just pay it right off.
Yeah. And a lot of these places too, you can go and get their company credit card, with their name on it. So you don't have to use it just there, but you build up points for those businesses. I have friends that do that. That's the only credit card they use because at the end of the month, they go spend their points.
Yep.
I mean, it's a win-win.
I know. And it can be dangerous too. So definitely.
It can be.
But this is why the banks want you to have it, so they can make sure that you are reliable when it comes for them to lend you that money.
Sure.
So the next item that they're looking for is your length of credit. So kind of we've already talked about this, but don't close any credit cards because you're not using them. Definitely keep them open. Don't get new credit cards, close them right away. Get new credit cards, close them right away, because they're going to see that is probably raising red flags for a bank. So just make sure that you are keeping them open for as long as you can. And the main thing is just start talking to a lender. If you are thinking about buying a house and you need to get pre-approved, every real estate agent in the area has a list of lenders that you can talk to and choose from, and we can help make recommendations, help you out. So the lender is a very huge role in the transaction. They're a big, big player in the transaction. On the buyer side, the last one is a home inspector. I know I've talked about home inspections on the podcast before. This is not required, but it is highly, highly, highly recommended because they go through the house and they basically tell you the full health history on that house. So
they look at the things that you and I probably might not see.
Right. And if we do see them, they know the reason behind it. Where I might be like, ooh, I think your roof is leaking. They're going to know more about why and where it's coming from.
They had a little ice dam up there, and that maybe should be something that we should look at. And things like that. Because let's face it, around here, especially with the snow we have this year, this spring is when you find out if you're going to have any issues. And a lot of people will find out this spring. Man, I wish you didn't have to work tomorrow. That's too bad.
Yeah, I know.
Part of the gig, right?
I usually work on weekends. It just seems to kind of be the busiest. And
oh, sure.
A lot of people don't work on weekends, so they want to look at homes.
No? So. Okay. How does somebody get a hold of realty expert Caitlin Ramseth?
My number is 320-267-6692. You can text or call me at any time.
So I'm guessing we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes.
Have yourself a wonderful weekend, and thanks for coming in.
You too.
All right, there you go. That is realty expert Caitlin Ramseth. That's your Friday edition of your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. We'll have another one coming up for you on Wednesday. Until then, have yourself a wonderful weekend.